What do you think about the possibility of getting a vaccine ready and out to people within a relatively short timeline?
So when we had the previous pandemic, which was the H1N1 swine flu back in 2009-10, we struggled to understand the nature of the virus and we struggled to respond to it. Today we have an armament, a repertoire of different tools which have completely transformed our approach to these type of crises. In terms of the pandemic we're currently facing, I believe that the best approach for us is to fully understand what the virus is doing and then adapt our vaccine strategy, which we can do using new technologies to create these vaccines very quickly, and take a Marshall Plan approach to how we endeavour to combat this virus. And that will mean that we have to throw everything at the virus that we can. That means that we've got to explore all kinds of immune approaches, not just traditional vaccine approaches, but novel vaccine approaches in order to do that.
Yes, I mean, it sounds like yes. Let's do all of those things, Navid. I mean,
Yeah.
the general public would want those with the knowledge to be doing everything they can. So is it a question of money or regulation? What would need to change to enable us to get, in the quickest time, to a vaccine?
So I think what we need to do is we need to ensure that companies which are developing different vaccine approaches are backed in a parallel manner. One of the dangers at the moment is that the companies which are making the most noise or getting first to a particular milestone are getting funding. I think it's very important that we sit back and actually reflect on where the virus originated from, which was from an animal species, the bat. And we need to understand exactly what this virus is able to do and what will happen when we start creating a vaccine approach and how we deploy that. There are a number of challenges that we face, which the industry faces because it has had a lack of investment. And I think in the UK and in Europe, we need to employ different strategies in order to combat this virus. That means we've got to look at injectable vaccines, we've got to look at oral vaccines, we've got to look at all kinds of approaches in order to tackle this problem head on.
So you've got, or the company that you work with, Stabilitech, has got an oral vaccine already developed and in trials. How long until that can get out there in the mouths of, regular people?
So the company currently is looking to begin a rapid expedited path for preclinical testing, so testing in animals effectively. And then beyond that, within a few weeks, the company will start hopefully to be dosing from a dosing perspective, 2 doses into patients, healthy patients. They will start to evaluate the vaccine, and then we will look to see if the vaccine can produce an immune response, if it can produce immunity.
How long does that take? In terms of time?
In a few weeks, we'll know. We'll know from a handful of patients what type of immune response we're seeing. And the rationale for that is that the company's already developed up to phase 1 stage a Zika vaccine, and we saw an immune response being generated within 2 weeks. So we believe that the company will be able to generate a vaccine very quickly. And then it's all about how you scale manufacturing, and that's the big challenge that all the vaccine companies face today. Most of the vaccine companies do not have the ability to scale manufacturing to hundreds of millions or even billions of doses, but Stabilitech has the opportunity to do that because of the way it manufactures the vaccine, which can be done at scale from day one.
And so what is the difference between you saying we'll know in a couple of weeks as to whether this can be done, Navid, but then others in the scientific community, I've heard in the UK saying, look, it's not going to be until the beginning of next year or sometime next year that we get a vaccine. Is that just the time it takes to scale up? What's the difference in the timing there?
So testing can be done in parallel with a number of strategies. One of the challenges is that many companies that are developing a vaccine are using novel methods, but the methods that they're using require different components to be assembled. And as you build those components together to create a vaccine, you end up losing yield. And if you lose yield, that means that you've got to develop more vaccine in order to cover the population. The other issue you face with some of the more traditional methods which are emerging is that you need more than 1 injection. So what you ideally need is 1 dose. You need a rapid immune response, and you need to be able to generate large batches of product very quickly. And just to focus on the immune response itself, there are two types. There is systemic immune response, which is typically blood-based, and mucosal, which is to do with the areas that the viruses are currently infecting. This virus is actually infecting areas of the lung and the nasal passage, etc. And the mucosal response and the systemic response, these two approaches combined, I believe, will be more powerful in giving us full protection against this virus.